Welcome to Podtoid. I'm CJ.
I'm Chris.
I'm Charlotte.
I'm Occams.
And this is episode 443. Unfortunately, Dan is dealing with a power outage issue right now, so he will not be joining us on today's show. But we do have a good show scheduled for you today. And real quick, just a happy Mother's Day to the one mother probably who listens. Maybe one. I'm going to go on a limb there and guess that we have one mother listening. But on today's show, we're going to be talking about some Mortal Kombat, some Yakuza, and we're going to be bringing up a few of the TV shows we have been watching this week. How have you guys been doing? Occams, how was your week?
Yeah, it was okay. It was it's always kind of a mild existential crisis currently due to everything going on. But I sat out in the sun and I put some suntan lotion on my tattoos. So do that when you go out in the sun. And I read, and it was refreshing. Instead of being glued to our phones, to sit out in the sun and read a book. What a simple thing that I forgot to do all these years. So it was nice.
Why'd you put suntan lotion on your tattoos? What's the benefit there?
Well, thanks for asking. So it just, in general, it's good for your skin because the sun can just fuck up your skin real quick. And I'm kind of a Morlock, so I don't get a lot of sun. But if you have tattoos, what can happen is over the years, the sun exposure, the UV rays get down and actually will break up the ink into little choppy little bits, and your tattoos start looking like shit. And so so you want to, it's an investment, and you want to protect your tattoos and your skin for that matter. So you always want to put suntan lotion on, even if you go out just for 10 or 15 minutes. It's really important you do that.
But if you've got a shit tattoo, then maybe go out in the sun all the time.
Yeah, if you have a shit tattoo, go ahead and tape a magnifying glass to your tattoo and just kind of angle that right into the sun. Pretend that tattoo is just a little pile of ants, you little serial killer.
I'm now just imagining Jordan buying just buckets and buckets of suntan lotion to maintain his arms.
Yeah, 100%. And they make tattoo goo and all these different products that are designed like suntan lotion, but they're built for tattoos. And 100%. You definitely slather it on.
Tattoo goo sounds like a ska band album from the 90s.
You're the worst, and that's correct.
Charlotte, your country is kind of sort of opening up. How's everything in Germany right now?
People say that, but I've not really noticed it. I mean, I haven't even really paid that much attention because I'm still not going to do the things that they're now letting us doing. I'm not going to go to the shops unless it's for food. And food shops obviously have still been open, supermarkets have been open. So I'm not going to just go clothes shopping out in public at the moment. Why would I do that? So, and I've not gone back to work. We don't know when we're going back to work, physically going back to work.
Right.
Things like cinemas are still shut. Contacts. So we have to stay a certain distance away from people and we have to wear masks in shops. None of that has changed. So I've not really felt like things have been easing off, to be honest. And there's the way they're handling it is if there is a sudden increase in infections in a certain area, then they're going to lock down again.
Before we get into the show, I just want to start us off with a quick story that's also kind of an ad for Beano. We're heading to Nottingham, where police were on the pursuit of a 35-year-old man who was wanted for failing to appear at a court hearing. The man obviously did not want to go to jail, so he booked it on foot. And he was able to successfully evade the police by hiding in some bushes. And he was just almost in the clear, almost got away with it until he accidentally tipped officers off to his location. Well, actually, it was his ass because he let out a loud fart. A fart so loud that cops were able to locate him.
How's that a real story? I don't know.
Was it purely audio or was there also stench involved?
There was no mention in the story of a stench. I assume there was a stench if it's that loud. I can't imagine something being loud enough to alert the police that also is just a pleasant odor or no odor. For whatever reason, he kept farting up a storm, and it just led police directly to his location. At the arrest, one of the officers gave this quote to the BBC, quote, "I was almost out of wind running. but luckily the suspect still had some. It's a good cop. That is a good line to have at the ready for when you arrest a guy because he farted his location to you.
The sharp humor of the British Bobby.
I never thought I'd find myself in the position of defending a criminal here. But it's really hard to stuff them back in when they start. Usually if you're on a roll, it sort of just keeps coming and coming. Like that Smash Mouth lyric, they don't stop coming and they don't stop coming.
That All-Star was about farts, so yeah.
Well, do you remember that, like, whenever you were hiding from people, like as a kid, like hide and seek or whatever, then you always need to piss. Like out of nowhere, you suddenly need a piss. Like I don't know if it's from the tension or the excitement or whatever. Maybe it was just the same thing. Basically, it was the fear and the adrenaline and like.
Yeah, I always had to stretch my legs. Like whenever I would be hiding for someone, if I'm crouched down, that's the immediate moment that's like, oh, I need to do like 100 stretches right now, and it's just like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable here, and I hid in a lot of small spaces.
So you're just running away from people, like doing calisthenics behind like fucking walls.
Yeah, it's amazing I'm not in better shape. So yeah, I thought that was a story to put us in the right mood for the rest of the show. So let's go ahead and get into it and start out with you, Chris, with something called is it two separate things or is this Holmes and Yoyo?
Here's one thing. Like
Okay.
I've been playing a game this week, but I can't talk about it. So instead, like it's been a shit week. I've had a terrible 7 days. But one of the few bright spots in it is a friend of mine turned me onto a TV show. He's writing an article for a magazine that's about forgotten sitcoms that no one really knows about or whatever. And he's watching a whole bunch of these, and he doesn't really tell me about all of them, but he said, I need you to go and watch the first episode of this show. It's called Holmes and Yoyo. And it's an American sitcom from 1976. And basically, it was kind of made by some of the writers of Get Smart. And basically what it is, it's about this detective called Holmes who keeps losing his partners in comical ways because he's a bit of a disaster zone. So they're either, they're in a car crash or whatever, or in this case, he flips one over a house by pushing a button on a garage door opener or something. I don't know. So Holmes can't keep a partner. So he's just getting told off and chewed out. And suddenly this inventor just walks into the police chief's office and he's like, I've built this fully human android that's no one can tell apart from humans. I think he's going to be a great cop. And without giving a shit, the chief of police is like, oh, I'm going to get this guy to be partner for this guy I know called Holmes, without bothering to say, holy shit, you've invented a fucking human android. Immediately he's just like, that sounds like a great idea. I'll give him to Holmes. And then basically Yo-Yo is this robot that's learning on the job to how to be human. And he teams up with Holmes, who doesn't know he's a robot, and they have to go and solve this stolen car case. And slapstick hilarity ensues. People pressing remote controls on TV and it makes Yo-Yo do a forward flip in the background, things like that. And then about 15 minutes into the episode, someone's murdered.
Seems to be the right tone.
Yeah, a bit of a leap in tone, but the person who stole the car is murdered. Fortunately, there's only been one other character in the show, so we already know who the suspect is, and they just go back. They just go back to arrest that guy on a hunch. And when they just say to him, we think you did it for the insurance, fortunately for them, the guy pulls a gun and says, how did you figure it out? And it's like, well, instead of just going, no, what the fuck are you on about? Go and get a warrant. So anyway, they chase him down. He makes break for it. They chase him down. And then more slapstick has ensued. They've been unable to make mustard come out of a bottle and things like that. And then they chase down the killer and they kind of bump his car and Yo-Yo falls out the car. And Holmes is like, oh no, my partner. And he runs over to him and Yo-Yo's chest panel falls open and you can see there's a calculator in there. And Holmes goes, oh, you're not a person. And then Yo-Yo out of nowhere is like, and this is paraphrasing, but Yo-Yo out of nowhere is like, how am I not a person? Was I not built and programmed the same way you were built and programmed? And yes, maybe I malfunctioned, but isn't failure part of the human endeavor? So it's a bit tonally all over the place.
Wow. When you first started describing it, it sounded like they took the lyrics from a Ray Stevens song and just we're going to build this out to a pilot. And then the murder happened. So.
Yeah, and then it turns into like a Philip K. Dick novel, like at the end. And so Yo-Yo's leaking oil, and Holmes runs over to the garage and he's like, "I need some oil." And the guy's like, "What kind of oil?" And he's like, "The best. It's for my partner." and that's basically like the pilot. And then there was like 3 more episodes that they screened before it was cancelled, and then there was like 6 more episodes that never got shown, and it's never been released on video or DVD. So there's just these few episodes on YouTube. And I guess the last point I want to make about this fantastic bit of science fiction comedy is the title sequence. It says on the screen Holmes and Yo-Yo, and then there's 3 consecutive shots of them driving to a location, getting out of the car and running into the location. So they pull up to a bank and they both run into the bank. Then they pull up to a shop and both run into the shop. And then I think there's like they run up to a jeweler's and both run into the jeweler's. And then they pull up to a gas station and they both run into the toilet, which I think is like the punchline.
This 100% sounds like it's the inspiration from the fake mac and cheese show
Mac and
from
cheese.
Friends.
But yeah, so I watched this episode and then I was like, well, I'm definitely not watching anymore. And then I looked on IMDb and found that Yvonne Craig is in one of the episodes, so I will be watching more.
Oh.
And apparently it was also directed by John Astin, who was Gomez from the Addams Family.
I bet they had such high hopes for it.
I have no idea. But yeah, Holmes and Yo-Yo. There's episodes on YouTube. You ain't going to buy it anywhere. Anything else? Yo-Yo's played by John Schuck, who went on to play Herman Munster in The Munsters Today, the 90s television reboot.
Just an all-around great career for him.
What a CV.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to Occams. Occams, what the hell is Satan's Toy Box?
That's a great question. Satan's Toy Box was a DVD I randomly bought off of eBay because the description of it was essentially it was a satanic panic toys are evil religious program from the 1980s, 85, I believe, that somebody just put on a DVD and it made a nice fancy cover. So I had to buy it. I'm a bit of a slut for the satanic panic in the 80s and all aspects of it. There's nothing I love more than a bunch of woefully misinformed, small-minded men discussing He-Man and Masters of the Universe. It's great. So I bought this and I watched it. And it blew me away. And I looked up. It's a guy named Gary Greenwald, who is still alive, unfortunately. And he's still preaching the good word. It was his take on the evils of Scooby-Doo, He-Man. Let's see here, Thundercats. Oh, we go deep on this. Classic kids commercials. Apparently, Rainbow Bright is demonic.
I could have told you that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the best shit. The Thundercats, which is introduces Hinduism and paganism. They bring up the evils of yoga. My favorite bit from it was My Little Pony. And the way they do this, by the way, this is available on YouTube. I was happy to buy the DVD, but if you look up "Deception of a Generation," demonic toys, I'm looking at the link for YouTube. The whole thing, hour and a half long, is up on there. It's a great watch. But so they talk about My Little Pony, and this girl, and she has this little pony, and it's sweet. And he was like, you know how you like the Muppets would move with their little hand? He had a little My Little Pony dancing across the screen. But then you turn it around, and the My Little Pony had a horn, so it's a unicorn pony, and that is paganism and like mythology, which is of course evil. So right there, demonic toy. I mean, it's really easy. Like Skeletor and Mum-Ra always get shit because of the way they looked. So they're clearly satanic, evil, any sort of bad guy toy. My favorite was they started out with Scooby-Doo, and the way of Scooby-Doo was evil was that it was when the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo came out. And so Vincent Price is like talking to him like, we got to capture the kid back. This is back when like there were real ghosts in Scooby-Doo. So that was the That was the infiltration of the demonic occult into good wholesome cartoons. And it just so Gary Greenwald is interviewing this guy. I think his name is like Phillipson. He had a weird name, and he looks like if Trump had another kid, but like this one was kind of like parboiled a little bit. He really looks like one of the Trump kids. It's very unpleasant to watch.
Okay.
But this guy, he gets interviewed as this expert in demonic occult toys, and he says, "Well, the Lord told me to fast for 2 weeks, and while I was fasting, I did something I don't normally do. I went to a toy store." It sounds like the premise for like a Bob and David sketch that didn't get made. And it made me think like, okay, so you're fasting for 2 weeks. You know how you've been around someone who's drunk and they're like, "I love you, man," or what, they're all then like, okay, you've clearly, your inhibitions have come down.
That's me after one white wine spritzer. There
you go. So this guy's fasting for 2 weeks and he's not eating. His blood sugar's just tanked. He's drinking water. So he's all kind of fucked up. And his inclination is to go to a toy store. I cannot recommend this enough. They intercut these clips from the show and they talk about how they're evil and it's wonderful. There was a bit where they had all these toys. I'm talking like still in box, He-Man and Thundercats, like the big play sets. They had Snake Mountain, which was great because for our younger audience, maybe if you don't know Snake Mountain, it had this microphone that had a little like kind of like weird monster head, and you could talk to it. And the sound was like tinny and awful, but it was supposed to be like you can have the voice of Snake Mountain. And this guy. He's like, and you can talk like a demon. And the guy like puts the mouth up and he's like, "Satan is God, Satan." It's great. And that's apparently an evil toy thing. But so they're holding up these toys. These toys are mint in box. So while I'm watching this, the weirdo nerd in me, I'm on eBay, like looking up how much these toys are worth now. And I'm keeping track of like, oh man, that's like $600 right now. You son of a bitch.
So they've got like $6,000 on that table in front.
Oh, easily, yeah. And of course, Dungeons and Dragons is evil. It's always been evil, though.
Yeah.
And there's a couple things: Black Star and the Infaceables, which I'd never heard of, so that's always fun. And then Star Wars ties into witchcraft. E.T. is evil, by the way. Oh, and the Care Bears. One of my favorite bits because I know, right? Well, because what happens is the Care Bears, they live in the sky in clouds and they come down and they help children. So the Care Bears are pretending to be angels, which is what demons do.
Jesus.
Demonic toys.
I've seen videos of from that same group, not the same video, but I've seen other videos from that same group, and there's like nothing that they can't kind of tie into like paganism. There's one where they're having a dig at Hero Quest in the Games Workshop games, and then they're just like having a go at Vanilla Ice in one of them, and they're just like,
oh yeah. So I watched this. This is well worth your time. It's stupid. It's sad. It's funny. It's great. It's that kind of shit. I love it. But kind of piggybacking off of that, I kind of fell into a rabbit hole. I looked this guy up, this Gary Greenwald, on YouTube, and I ended up finding this YouTube channel. They're called Occult Demon Cassette. Kind of sounds like a word salad a little bit, but Occult Demon Cassette.
That is 100% a Frank Zappa album.
Oh, absolutely. They are just a treasure trove of these kind of videos. I'm looking at their page right now. The first video that pops up was how to spot counterfeit Beanie Babies, which is a VHS strip from 1998. I haven't watched that one yet, but I am absolutely looking forward to it. There's one, a witch's spiritual hoedown. There's a witch's confession, and these are all like just these local yokel, like in a strip mall churches where someone's like, "I was a Satanist and I sucked the devil's dick, but I love Jesus now." It's great. And there's just a bunch of like Y2K videos. These are all VHS strips, by the way. And there's some really good ones. I remember fondly when I was a child, when the internet was still in development commercially. And we had to watch these videos on the information superhighway and like talked about how to type and what HTTP meant and all that fun stuff. They have a bunch of those, but they all have like a Christian tint to them. And just it's Occult Demon Cassette. It's a fun weirdo waste of your time. And right now we need fun, weirdo wastes of time. So that's what I've been doing this week.
All my big takeaway from those videos is they talk shit about my girl Shadow Weaver, and then I was just out. It's like if you're going to start laying into Masters of the Universe, that's fair enough, okay? But you fucking leave Shadow Weaver alone. She's the best.
It saddens me to think this was a real, like, people really thought that way and continue to do so.
Yeah. All right. I've kind of been on the same path as you guys. I didn't really do much gaming this past week. I canceled my Hulu subscription, so now I'm just binge watching as many shows as possible before it's over. Like I watched Barry this past week. I finished up Superstore, and tonight I'm watching The Lodge, so I'm very excited about that. But after finishing Barry, it took me back to the main page where they do that. Here's some suggested things that you might like based on what you've watched. And these have never worked out in my favor. Like YouTube kept trying to get me to watch a Tekashi 6ix9ine video. I'm like, why am I going to watch a video of a guy who's going to be murdered? Hulu decided to recommend a show called Celebrity Watch Party. And I know what you're thinking, CJ, why would I watch a show where celebrities throw parties for their watches? But no, you're thinking of Celebrity Swatch Party, and that's very popular in the Netherlands. Celebrity Watch Party. You know, let me let the show explain what it's about and give you a taste of the type of entertainment you're in store for.
Welcome back to Celebrity Watch Party, where you watch celebrities on TV. Watching TV.
Can you look at my toes right now?
I really would rather not.
Look, it's from being in toe shoes all my life.
God.
That is a show. That is a show that is on television.
Okay, we have something similar in the UK, but it's not even celebrities. It's just normal, like, quote unquote, normal people. So we do it worse.
Oh,
It's called Gogglebox. Look it up.
Oh, Gogglebox.
And it's really fucking popular as well. And it's basically a bunch of different so there's like, you know, there's like a married homosexual couple, and there's a full family, and there's like a single mum and her kids. There's all these different demographics, and it's just they watch telly and kind of just chit chat about what they're watching, and that's what the program is.
Wow.
I swear every time I come back to the UK and I see what my mum is watching on telly, and it's like, it gets dumber and dumber every time I visit. Like, there was one which was basically, Chris, at old style seaside arcades, there's that machine that pushes coins forward.
Yeah, sure, like the 2p machines. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a game show now.
Yeah, I think it's called Tipping. It's called Tipping Point, and it's just like a giant version of those 2p machines, and that's a game show. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Deal or No Deal was stupid, but that's even worse. Jesus.
Sorry, CJ. We've gone off.
No, it's okay.
Derailed.
I normally I wouldn't watch this, but I had to see what kind of train wreck this would be, and so I sat and watched the entire hour. This is an hour-long show that had an announcer that would say shit like this.
Meanwhile, the Osborne household has become a dog-eat-dog world.
That dude makes the announcer from America's Funniest Home Videos sound like Andrew Dice Clay. If you're wondering,
there's just such a fucking flow, isn't it? It's just.
It's like a good Sylvester Stallone impression.
If you're wondering what celebrities have agreed to be on this show, there are, at least for the first episode, the Osbournes, Steve Wozniak and Janet Hill, Master P and Lil Romeo.
No.
Robert and Kim with a Y, who I assume are from one of those Real Housewives shows. Megan Trainor and a couple of gays. Raven Simone. Celebrity chef Curtis Stone and Lindsay Price. Joe Buck and Michelle Buck. Rob Lowe and his kids. Whoever the hell Joja Siwa is. And finally, Tyra Banks and her mom. And, I mean, the show is...
Raven.
Yes. So this entire show is just these celebrities in their huge living rooms, or in the case of the Osbournes and Master P, their own personal movie theaters, watching television. And the first show they fucking watch is, of course, The Masked Singer, which is now officially the second worst show on American television. I have to say American television because I didn't know that Gogglebox was a fucking show. I thought the worst show that you guys had was that talk show where Lily Allen Skyped with her friends. But no, that sounds much worse. I'm not being obscure on that one. Do Do either of you know that show I'm talking about?
I don't watch telly.
Okay.
No, I'm just trying to think of some old highlights of like the worst TV. Like me and my partner have been watching on YouTube the Great British Bake Off, because they do have some people have put the some of the old seasons on YouTube, and that's the only way we can watch them. But right at the end was an ad for that show where a family, basically the TV company built a semi-detached sort of British-style house in the middle of a tribe in Africa, and it was about how this family sort of tried to anglicize this tribe in Africa, and apparently it was I read reviews of it after the fact, and apparently it was the most racist shit imaginable. just awful.
That's great.
And the thing to focus on there, Charlotte brought it up, the thing is they actually built a house that looks like a British normal house, just bang in the middle of a field. So they literally live in this semi-detached house that looks like every house I see if I look out my window right now, but it's just bang in the middle of this tribe land.
Wow. God, that colonialism did not die in your country, did it?
It reminds me of that. It reminds me of that guy who swam to that island to convert the natives, and they fucking killed them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh.
That made me so happy. Oh Jesus.
So they're watching The Masked Singer, and by the way, I will never watch the show, but apparently somebody in the audience of the show that they were watching started crying when a turtle was singing a Coldplay song, and yes, she was white. But there was also this quick little exchange between Tyra Banks and her mom trying to figure out who the frog singer is.
Oh, that's James Brown.
Well, James Brown is dead.
So that's the level of quality television you're getting that with Celebrity Watch Party. And you can really tell that the people on the show don't actually watch the shows that they are being paid, I assume, to watch. Because like Steve Wozniak had no fucking clue what Masked Singer was. But these are the shows that they watched for this first episode. Disney Nature Elephants, Good Morning America, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And by the way, not one fucking person pointed out that that's Alfred Molina at the beginning of the film. The Last Dance, which is this documentary about Michael Jordan that's really popular. CBS This Morning, RuPaul's Drag Race, which I imagine was just a treat for Master P. And then the virtual Kentucky Derby. And at this point, I'm thinking this is the worst show ever conceived. It doesn't get any worse than this. But then to end the episode, they have them all watch an episode of Dr. Pimple Popper. And I'm telling you, I could watch people watch Dr. Pimple Popper all day just to get the reactions.
Oh! You want to see?
This is ruining my sex drive for the next 50 years.
By the way, that's Rob Lowe at the end saying that Dr. Pimple Popper is killing his sex drive, so 16-year-old girls around the country can sleep easy tonight. But that's the show. And by the way, the Dr. Pimple Popper absolutely warranted all of those reactions. That's fucking disgusting.
There's a
if you have anything else bad to say about my favorite TV star, Dr. Sandra Lee, there's going to be trouble.
They cut open this woman's cyst, and it was like salsa verde mixed with cottage cheese was coming out of her. It was so disgusting.
I think you'll find it's called sebaceous fluid.
Sebaceous fluid. No, I find that stuff satisfying. I haven't watched it yet, but I so would, and I'd probably eat something while watching it as well.
Yeah, that's Celebrity Watch Party, and I got to say, I can take comfort in the fact that it fucking bombed in the ratings, so much like Soup Plantation, this will not survive COVID-19.
So now all we need is someone to make a TV show about us on a podcast, talking about celebrities on a TV show, watching a TV show.
I bet I could sell that to Fox.
At least UPN.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly. Also, who's Steve Wozniak? I know that name.
He was in Apple. In Apple. Go on, CJ, answer it properly.
No, you're correct. He co-created Apple. He co-founded Apple.
Oh my, they got him?
Yeah, because my question was, why is he doing it?
Well, you have to remember, and maybe you don't remember this, but he also did Dancing with the Stars. So his bar for what he will do is already very low. This isn't that much lower than that. By the way, all of these people, except for Steve Wozniak, were wearing full jeans or pants indoors, which I believe, Occams, you said was a sign of a crazy person a few episodes ago.
Serial killer, man. Every scene in a movie where the killer is like cutting themselves or like sitting in a shitty, dirty room with like pictures of eyes up on the wall and they just look filthy and deranged. The real life equivalent of that is sitting in your home wearing blue jeans. If CJ, real quick, can I defend this terrible show for a second?
No, but go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I want to offer up just some devil's advocacy here. So, in high school, we went to a friend's sister's house, or apartment rather, excuse me. And we were helping her move in and stuff. We were just kind of hanging out, and we were watching some TV, flipping the channels. And we came to this one channel, put it on, and it was just a shot of a street. And we ended up watching this street for like half an hour, and just cars would drive by, and we just watched it silently, waiting for something to happen that never did. And it turns out that channel was actually a connection to the CCTV camera set up in the front of the apartment complex. And we didn't realize that until she came in and said, "Why are y'all watching the apartment complex channel?" It's like, oh shit. So I could see how people could watch this show, but I'm very glad to hear it did poorly in the ratings.
Destructoid for all your video game news.
Well, let's get into a video game right now and wrap up this part of the show with Charlotte talking about Yakuza 5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of similar to everybody else in that I only played this for a couple of hours yesterday, but I haven't even watched it much, really. This entire week has just gone by in a complete blur because my work hours have been extremely strange, so I can't even remember what I did most nights of the week. But with Yakuza, I continued, so I'm basically on the fourth story arc, the fourth act, and this is a brand new character who is a baseball star who had one match in the pros and then he got caught in a match fixing scandal, but maybe it wasn't actually a match fixing scandal. It's that kind of story. And yeah, I'm just doing that, and I've done actually a bit disappointed. I got through all the side stories pretty fast, like within 2 hours, which is a bit disappointing because he's a new character, so I want to find out more about him. And yeah, I've got through a big meaty part of the story about this character, and I'm going on to the final section of the act that's about this character. And I believe that the next act, from what I've gathered, is they are all the different characters. So Kiryu, Akiyama from Yakuza 4, who's the loan shark, Haruka, who's Kiryu's sort of adopted daughter, and Saejima, who is this big brute of a soft man who's been in prison way too many times for what he's actually done. And they're all going to come together and you know, fight back against, there's some sort of power struggle going on. It's all very complicated, but I'm just enjoying the journey more than the story at the moment, to be honest. So it's kind of not relevant to what I've played, but I just want to mention something that I found out about today, which is sort of related to Yakuza in a way. It's about gangs. The Mafia account on Twitter posted something for the first time in about 2 years this afternoon. So there might be a Mafia reveal, which I'm pretty excited about because I had a lot of fun with Mafia 3, and a lot of people I know had a lot of fun with Mafia 2 as well. So I'd be really excited if something comes out of that.
I am so fucking thick that for a split second there, I thought you meant like an actual account representing the Mafia.
There's not a single Mafia unit. I mean, maybe the Cosa Nostra or something has a Twitter account, but that would seem a bit silly. Just announcing, oh, we're I don't know, throwing a birthday party in downtown New York. I don't know. Yeah, the Mafia game account has.
I'm sorry. I'm just thinking, maybe you retweet these tweets. Maybe your house doesn't get blown up.
Every time they send out an emoji of an orange, someone dies.
It tickles me the idea that they perhaps have a joint PR account. Like they want to spend all their money on cocaine, so they've just got the same PR guy who's like, oh no, not another announcement that they've put out hit on somebody. I don't know.
Well, you know, if ISIS can have a Twitter account, you know, why not the mafia?
Yeah.
That's actually not a bad point. But yeah, has anybody else had good experiences with the Mafia games?
I've had good experience with a non-Mafia game, the Godfather Black Hand Edition for the Wii. I'd not played any of the regular ones, although I think I have Mafia 3. I think that was a PlayStation Plus title, so it's somewhere
that's how I
up
have
in the
it,
cloud for me. So I kind of want to play it just so I can go, take a machine gun to a bunch of Klansmen. So maybe that'll be a fun weekend activity for me.
Yeah, I haven't played any of the Mafia games. For whatever reason, I've never liked the Mafia. I've never seen Godfather. I've never, just that kind of stuff.
What?
What?
You come at us with all of these obscure ass movies. Oh yeah, by the way, I've never seen the Godfather.
Hey, well, you know what else? Never met my real dad. So no, I have. He's fine. He's a good dude. But I just never took to Mafia stuff. It always seemed like, well, you got like a gun, some spaghetti, your character study. Okay, I don't know. It just didn't do much for me. I do like the idea of Mafia 3 and fighting Klansmen. That sounds cathartic, to put it mildly. But yeah, I should give them a try. I should probably watch The Godfather at some point. But it's also one of those movies where I've had a lifetime of it being built up to be the greatest cinema experience ever. And I don't know if it could actually meet those expectations for me.
Yeah, higher expectations may be a roadblock into fully enjoying the film. I gotta do you only enjoy like 3 of Martin Scorsese's films then? Like, if you're not really into the Mafia?
Essentially, yeah. No, I like Scorsese's stuff, but I'm a Taxi Driver fan.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Taxi Driver, Hugo, and Last Temptation of the Christ. Gotcha.
I mean, yeah, I did skip that whole like I'm 19 and want to be Travis Bickle without the weird lady issues phase that some of my friends went through, which was good.
You are listening to Podtoid.
All right, that is it for games, which means it is time for the news.
This is the news.
Not a lot happened this week. We did get some financial reporting from companies like Capcom and Nintendo. And Nintendo specifically announced that Animal Crossing New Horizons has sold more than 13 million copies. Not only does it make it the best-selling game in the franchise, but it also outsold what Nintendo thought it would do in its lifetime. So, right timing on that game cannot be argued enough. But we're going to start the news off with our first story, and it has to do with Mortal Kombat. This week, developer NetherRealm pulled back the curtain on its DLC story expansion coming to Mortal Kombat 11. It's called Aftermath, and it deals with the aftermath of one of the endings of the original game, with Raiden and Liu Kang reshaping history. Only they're interrupted by Shang Tsung, who is asked to be sent back in time to retrieve Kronika's crown, which may actually have more dire consequences than they believe. So it's a story DLC, and not only will this be giving players more story, which I think people generally enjoy from Mortal Kombat, outside of the voice acting.
Cut this shit! You'll kill us whether we fight or not!
But they'll also be getting 3 new fighters, including the return of the Wind God Fujin, multi-armed Shiva, and Stryker. I'm sorry, not Stryker. RoboCop. I mix my cops up. Chris, I know a lot of people were expecting Ash Williams. What's your view on RoboCop getting in?
I think by now, I just think kind of all bets are off in the sense of who's making it into these games, because whilst they've had all these guest stars and most of them have been kind of horror themed, and I kind of get that. Now we're entering even Predator and Aliens, who are more sci-fi, are still kind of scary and horror. But now we're entering full on kind of the Terminator, the Joker, RoboCop. RoboCop's easily. I'll tell you what it's like. it's like when McFarlane Toys did that really good range of movie Maniac figures. We've talked about them on the show before. And the first wave, you know the figures, Occams. The first wave was like Leatherface, Freddy Krueger, Norman Bates. And then the season 2 was like Scream, Cenobite number 9 from Hellraiser. See, I was a film wanker and didn't call him Pinhead. But then we got to like season 5 and like literally they had Sarah Connor and Shaft, and I was
damn right.
And basically, it's starting to feel a little bit like that with these guest characters now. Like I'm not offended that they're putting them in, not at all, but it is a little bit. The RoboCop thing in is so odd. He's got to do like fighting. He's got to do like roundhouse kicks or whatever and sweeps and you know my friend my best buddy in IRL like immediately came off the top with, well, at least he's going to fit straight into the NetherRealm animation style.
Good.
But as for Ash Williams, here's the deal. It's as simple as this. Like, there was a leak way before the game came out, and that leak predicted everything that's been revealed for the game since, and even had story beats of, and here's what happens in the story, here's who dies in the story, X, Y, and Z. They got everything right. And that leak had Ash in it, and there's been no sign of him. So if he's not coming, then a contract must have fallen through or something. Because they got everything right. They even predicted these characters, like they predicted Shiva and Fujin, and this was like over a year and a half ago that they got that was leaked. So Ash was in that list, and he's the only person who hasn't turned up. So either they had him and then it fell through, or they just are still yet to bring the character out. There's been a fresh leak, but no one can necessarily believe it. Spoilers if you care about leaks of DLC. There's been a fresh leak within the last 24 hours, but not from a source anyone can prove, that suggests Rambo might be on the cards.
Ugh.
Because if there's one thing about Mortal Kombat 11, which, as you know, is a game I kind of have a very odd relationship with, like, it's fucking obsessed with guns.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat 11 is. I wrote about that in my review. It's really gun fetishistic. The story mode is rammed full of gunfights. You've got all these martial arts fighters, but the amount of times they're all kind of like hanging out like with M16s and rocket launchers, and characters that didn't have guns in Mortal Kombat, like Jax, now have guns, even if they're like sawn-off shotguns or whatever. Joker's got guns. Terminator's got guns. RoboCop's only got a gun. Spawn in this game has like 4 different kind of guns. So Rambo showing up seems par for the course if it's true.
I think the problem with this DLC is that we're getting into like celebrity Hollywood Squares territory. We're filling the board, and it's not, to me, very compelling. I think it's like that sounded fun on paper. I'm surprised it made it all the way through, when there are a lot of other like more like you could focus on a more horror stuff. Like I'm shocked's a strong word. I'm surprised that Cenobite number 9 Pinhead hasn't been selected. I think that would be an interesting character. I think you could do, especially as good as they are at making like fighting moves and fatalities certainly and stuff. I think that has a lot of interesting options they could explore. Even you could go kind of obscure. You go fucking Pumpkinhead. Find a way to work Chucky in. Make like Chucky and Bride of Chucky and Son of Chucky all stand on each other's shoulders, put a trench coat on, call it a day. There are things you could do, and RoboCop to me seems really weird and kind of like okay, like seems fine, but and the Ash Williams thing, that has to be maybe the likeness rights, maybe something, because that's a no-brainer, and I'm very surprised they haven't pulled the trigger on that yet, because
rewind the clock. We talked about it on this show over a year ago. Rewind the clock to that trailer that was like teasing new characters coming, and at the end they had the sound of a chainsaw revving up. What was that for? Because no one's got a chainsaw. So I think it's either they've not done it yet, or or some weird contract things happened and it's fallen through.
Yeah.
I think I have to agree with you. Like that may be what it is. The latter point of just it was going to happen until it didn't.
But in terms of other things to do with this thing, it's cool that they're adding this extra little bit of story. It'd be nice to get an actual ending, because all the Mortal Kombat stories always end with like, and here's 6 questions, so we can for the next game. It'd be nice to kind of cap it off, even if you then just restart it, just have the sunset, and then you can come up with a new story the next time around. But it's cool that they're doing kind of some story DLC. I like some of the characters that they're putting in there. There's other stuff that's coming in. There's those friendships that are coming back, which have always been kind of great in those games, and they've been sorely missed. So they're bringing back stage fatalities. A lot of these things that we get with so many fighting games where, now it's kind of going to be at the status where it should have been when it launched, which is like just the way fighting. Look at Street Fighter V that took 2 years to feel like a complete game. 2 fucking years.
Yeah.
Another thing is, I know how it's $40 as well, which is
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that just for the upgrade?
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
Because I think it's $60 for the upgrade in the base game. Now that's obviously, I've said this in my reviews before about games, that's between you and your wallet. Do you know what I mean? I've put enough hours into Mortal Kombat over 14 months that I don't mind dropping another $40 on it, because I've put like 600-700 hours or whatever, and it doesn't really bother me all that much. But I think if you're someone who, Mortal Kombat's often about the hunt rather than actually getting things. And I think a lot of people who were like, where's the game? And then they bought the game and then 6 weeks later weren't playing it. I'm not sure if they want to drop another $40.
Right.
And I feel like they're pulling like a fast food restaurant thing, to where you want just the bacon deluxe, it's $4.99, but the combo meal is $6.99. So maybe for folks who haven't bought the game yet, but we're like, maybe they see that the full thing is $60. Fuck doing the $40, just get the whole thing.
Because for that $60, I think you also get the characters that have come in the last year, so like Sindel and Terminator, and essentially, as people like to, the complete edition. But they're not calling it the complete edition because there's blatantly still at least another year of DLC coming to this game. They haven't said that, but they're just. I'm convinced. I put money on it.
What I hope is, you mentioned hopefully using this DLC as a way to end the current storyline that's been going on for the past 3 games, is that it's followed up with another version of Mortal Kombat Armageddon, but with the 2D fighting engine and just everyone who's been in these past 3 games, all DLC. It's not going to happen, but it just was a thought that came to me and just had me, champing at the bit. So
there's a thing with Mortal Kombat that so many fans, myself included, we come up with so many ideas that are like great ideas, but they're just always great ideas that we say. And if you go on any of the big forums like Test Your Might, they're filled with people saying something really great and then putting at the end of the post, it's not going to happen, but it's a nice idea. Yeah. Like my idea was, I would have loved it if, how like Shang Tsung is like the act is Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa from the movies. I'd put dollar down if they got the likenesses of all the actors from those Mortal Kombat movies and gave them skins in the game. Like a Hollywood pack that made everybody look like they looked in the movies. That'd be a fucking great idea.
Yeah, that would
but
be.
It's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? So
it's a shame, because I think those actors have really embraced those roles and that kind of cult classic status. Yeah.
So this DLC is coming out. It's at the end of the month, so we don't have long to wait. It's $40, which is going to be a talking point for sure when more people know it, because they didn't openly announce the price, but you can see it on like PlayStation Store now.
Yeah.
And as for Ash, I don't know. Like, he's either coming during this next 12 months or the deal fell through and they'll just always act like he was never coming in the first place.
You are listening to Podtoid.
All right, we are just about out of time, but before we go, Occams, we have a community shout out this week.
Yeah, we got some birthdays. We got Funkatron's Finest turns 40. Congrats, buddy. Vincent Dante celebrated birthday, and our own community liaison person, Torch, is his birthday. So I hope you have a good one. You got all the Gundams. all of them.
I like that pronunciation. Gundams.
Gundams. So happy birthday. And I want to give a special shout out to user Neuronium. He had some legal troubles with a former employer and some back pay and some stuff, and that was resolved in his favor. And I've been kind of following his struggle with that on the Q posts, and he's doing better now. That makes me really happy. So a special shout out to you, buddy. So just some birthdays, some good news all around. So happy community times.
Awesome. Congratulations on that. On that little victory. We all could use a little victories right now. That is it for this episode of Podtoid. On behalf of Charlotte, Chris, Occams, and myself, thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, or to the Destructoid YouTube channel.